Hey everyone, this is Brooks Popwell from Pure Life Ministries. You're about to hear part of our bi-weekly podcast, Purity for Life. Hope you enjoy. In this segment, Pure Life Ministries co-founder Kathy Gallagher shares some encouragement with a hurting wife. In her letter to Kathy, Karen expresses that she's already faced the devastation of her husband's sexual sin, and she's wondering how she can have a close relationship with God now that she's recognizing some troubling spiritual problems in her own life. Kathy, let's talk now about a letter you wrote to Karen. Karen had written to you and was questioning her walk with God because of the way she was treating her husband. In this letter, it seems like what she's wondering is just how can she have a relationship with the Lord, how can she worship the Lord when she's seeing this evil that is inside her?
Yeah, this particular woman probably dealing with a little bit of bitterness from their past relationship and the things that he had done. And I know that it's easy to give over to anger and bitterness in the heat of a moment and then try to go and be with God, and you've got this baggage now. I just blew it with my husband. How can I enter into the presence of God? But, we all come to the Lord that way. I think every person on the planet that's ever professed Christ as their Savior has had the same struggle.
You mean just this idea that we have to be perfectly clean to come into worshiping the Lord, or just to spend any time with Him?
Yeah, and just seeing your heart. We all have to come to grips with what our heart is like. And I know I've said to the Lord a million times, if I've said it once, my heart is so black, Lord. And I always want to say, how can you love me? But that's the beauty of the cross. The blood of Christ has cleansed us from that, So when I have blown it with my husband or someone else, I can come to the Lord not in a presumptuous spirit, but in humility, ask for forgiveness, and know I've been forgiven. I don't have to clean myself up. I don't have to do 90 hours of penance before I can enter into the throne room of God. I can come just as I am, and I'm forgiven, and I can move on. And a lot of these women that I deal with, so many of them, they're so sincere. They really want to do the right thing, and they see their failures. They see their mistakes. They see how they've maybe with their mouth condemned their husbands or just treated them badly, and they just drag themselves into God's throne room. But I want to encourage these women who are really sincere, who are walking with Jesus, trying to do the right thing. God does see, and He knows what they're going through, and He forgives us when we fail. He doesn't hold it against us. That's what we're like. That's how we are. And I think that's why we struggle so much with God, is we sometimes think He's like we are, but He's nothing like us.
Well, as we talk further about all this, can you comment on gratitude and how being grateful for what God's done in our lives can help a person overcome that sense of condemnation?
Yeah, we regularly have people that we're counseling with make gratitude lists, because if your heart is full of gratitude, it won't be full of bitterness. It transcends all the other things that lodge themselves in our hearts.
In your response to Karen, you talked about how important your quiet times with the Lord were in overcoming bitterness in your own heart. I wonder if you could elaborate some about that quiet time and maybe give some practical advice about what that practice looks like.
Well, it's just absolutely the answer to any sin, any bitterness, anger, fear, all of those things that I struggled with myself. I found in my prayer time, my walk with Jesus, to be everything I needed. God would give me what I needed, and worship was particularly important to me to overcome just all the stuff that wives have to deal with that have been hurt by their husbands. I think the most important thing that I could communicate to women, it's not that you show up for a prayer time, an obligatory period where you're sitting before God. Rather, you are coming into a quiet, secluded, secret place where you and the Most High will have communion. And that's what it was for me. It was a time when I could get away from the world, get away from myself, get away from all the stuff that I had to deal with, and I was closed in with my Maker. It just became a molding time, really, where the potter would get me up on the table and start spinning that wheel, and he was doing things in me. Sometimes it was painful, sometimes it was glorious, but God could shape me, and God could mold me, and God could change my mind, and God could transform me, and He could give me His thoughts and take away my thoughts that were so often so earthly and so carnal.
You know, Kathy, I'm guessing it must be important, particularly for those women who are dealing with condemnation like this, to know that the Lord really desires to have that intimate time with them.
That's right. He does, and nothing should stop us from coming to God. He does not expect us to come clean. He expects us to come so He can clean us up, and we don't have to have it all together. We have to come in a humble spirit, and we have to come reverentially and in a repentant heart, but God is the one who changes us and eradicates that condemnation from our hearts.
Thanks for listening. You can find Purity for Life on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Or just go to our website, purelifeministries.org/podcast.